Canadian Conservatives are natural cowards.
What do you think about India's Prime Minister?
I'm here to get back at India for interfering in Canada.
Interference, it's a very long agenda.
You think this is a joke. The Toronto police told people to leave their car keys outside their house so thieves steal their cars and don't come into their house.
Is that the reason why Trump says it's time to now have Canada as part of the US?
Canada's done, and best case scenario is we get annexed by America.
What better way to start a world conversation than to talk about foreign interference? And with me to talk on that and much more is Daniel Bordman. He's senior correspondent for the National Telegraph here in India. And as he says, till the job is done, he's staying put. Daniel, thanks so much for speaking to me on Spot On.
Thank you for enabling my foreign interference.
Tell us more about it. What exactly are you doing?
So I'm doing foreign interference. Now, the clear definition of foreign interference, as I think I understand from the Canadian government and the CBC, is doing anything in India, especially tweeting. So I'm here undermining your national sovereignty, I think Canada's national sovereignty. Any other country I think I bring up, Bangladesh, we can undermine that. Why not, Israel, Lebanon, you name it, America. I'm foreign interfering. I am foreign interference incarnate. Generally just going around causing general chaos at the express request of Narendra Modi, who is literally controlling everything I say. Unless you hate Benjamin Netanyahu more than I'm a pawn of his, or Pierre Polievre, or Stephen Harper, or Donald Trump. This is how it works in Canadian media. I didn't really know this, but I was told I was unreliable and fake news and all the different things. So I'm here to get back at India for interfering in Canada by interfering in India. And this is my penance set out to me by Justin Trudeau.
And you have a lot on your plate, don't you? You have everybody from Netanyahu to India's Prime Minister when it comes to interference. It's a very long agenda that you have there.
Yep, it is a burden I bear, but I've been told that this is what I'm doing. So I guess all these world leaders have taken time to look at me and said, yes.
And this is all that they have time for.
This is all they have time for. They said, you, start tweeting nonsense right now. And the things I put on Twitter are obviously undermining everyone's national security. So I've been sent by whatever political figure you hate the most to undermine your national security by tweeting in India.
And you're doing a very effective job of that.
Thank
I must
you.
say that. Yeah, you've been tweeting nonstop. You're going to a lot of places. I believe you've also gone about putting some posters as well, haven't you?
Yes, I am also running for Prime Minister of Canada. Because if you can't beat them, join them, is sort of the thought of this. I'm running on the first ever Canada Last platform because I'm running for the Liberal Party New Leadership. And you think this is a joke, okay? And it is funny because it's not a joke, okay? It's not you. Okay, if you're an Indian citizen, you cannot vote in a Canadian election. What you can vote in, though, is a Liberal leadership race because you don't have to be a Canadian citizen. Don't even have to be 18. You have to be 14 years old, and you have to be able to go onto the internet and register as a Liberal. Now,
so anybody can do it?
Anyone could do it. We did it on the Plug with Sham Sharma show. We just tried this. And we used Abhijit's email, a name that was more inappropriate version of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. And we gave the address of the World Sikh Organization and Bindawale's birthday. And congratulations, you've been registered to the Liberal Party. And we did that, and people started registering for it's free, right? What could possibly go wrong when you have a free registration for a party where anyone over 14 can vote and don't have to prove Canadian citizenship, our elections are very secure, I'm told. But then people started to register, and it became a thing. And then they tried to shut it. They said they've made it more strict, but you can still, if you want, register to a Liberal Party. So I decided to declare my candidacy to be the next Prime Minister of Canada. And all those idiots are running for Prime Minister in a country of 40 million people, where I'm running for Prime Minister of Canada in a country of 1.5 billion people, right? So you got to outthink them.
You're outsmarting them, totally.
I mean, this is out of the box thinking. This is the type of things we need
in Canada.
To go. So we did it as I think sarcastically, and then we.
And I hope viewers are getting this. When I'm saying this and I'm playing along, I hope the viewers are getting that. Where we are on that sarcasm train.
But I'm flirting with the line of what is actual foreign interference, right? So I was going to go to India, and if the RCMP is going to stop me at the border for like, you were in India and you were on a rickshaw. If I'm going to be accused of foreign interference, I might as well get my money's worth out of this. Might as well put up posters and like run around the streets of India and like shake people's hands and like try and get their vote by promising like outlandish things. And,
Of course.
Right? Everything's going to be free, 100% tax rate. We're going to, everything's going to be trans or whatever. It's a standard like liberal platform to the max, right? We're going to, I think we have a lot of problems in Canada. People are really mad that we're sending a lot of money to the UN, and then the UN is sending money to corrupt organizations and terrorists all over the world. And this is bad because it's inefficient. If I am Prime Minister of Canada, I will send all Canadian taxpayer dollars straight to Hamas. No middleman.
Okay.
Just save money. This is, again, gotta cut out the middle, out of the box thinking, right?
Out of the box thinking is what is we're going to talk on. And in fact, we have been talking about, but I want to ask you about the Liberal Party membership that you just said.
Yeah.
The fact that anybody can actually vote for and has a stake in a Liberal Party and it may not have a stake in Canadian economy, Canadian society, isn't that troubling to people in Canada? I mean, where has Liberal Party gone?
Yeah, it's really bad. So prior to the Indian foreign interference scandal, the couple of weeks, there was a major, I think the month leading up, it's hard to kind of place it 2023 now, and so much happened after that. But the big story prior to the India thing was we had just discovered the mass amount of Chinese foreign interference. All right, so like Liberal Han Dong had to resign, and there are stories now we know of buses of Chinese foreign students, non-Canadians, people from China just being bused en masse to vote in his nomination, right? And stuff, the ballot boxes, like Han Dong was bringing, allegedly, a bunch of, he didn't know that these Chinese, like they couldn't speak English, right? These are just people from China just being bussed in.
How did they get there? How did they get to Canada?
We don't really, it's student visas. Student visas. It's the loophole, right? It's we still have resources, but we used to have a resource economy, which makes sense. People need oil, people need energy, people need softwood lumber. We have tons of these things. We should get them to market. And that's how Canada can be a prosperous country and still have social welfare and all that stuff, because resources are valuable. But Justin Trudeau came in and he knows better than us, and he's going to save the planet, and he's very woke, and he's climate change, the diversity, blah, 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 blah. So Canadian resources are now haram because they're bad for the environment. Oil in Canada, bad for the environment. Oil from the Islamic Republic of Iran, laundered through Venezuela, good for the environment. So we shut down our resource economy. So how do the Liberals keep the economy afloat? How did the GDP numbers keep going? Well, we have an economy based on human trafficking and money laundering. Sorry, real estate. The real estate sector booms and the education sector. So this is the two things, and it's money laundering and human trafficking. So the Khalistani thing plays into this. All right, you have kids in the Punjab region, and they're enticed to come to Canada because it's a big thing. Oh, come to Canada, and you want a good education. Oh, it's cheaper education in Canada, right? Save money, good deal. If you can afford, let's say $20,000 or whatever, the family gets it, and pays for going there. Now, there are real universities in Canada. I went to one of them. Shout out Queen's University, which, might end up being a terrorist training camp within the next few years. But for right now, it's a university. You have U of T, Queen's, Victoria, but now we have tons of diploma mills. So while U of T, McGill are real, there's a lot of like Northwest Technical Institute of just diploma mills. So it's like inside a strip mall. Right, there's a place with a room like the size of this.
So you're saying sham universities?
Sham universities
everywhere,
right? And you saw there was this famous student protest where they were protesting. They had all been failed in their computer science courses, and they're protesting in Punjabi, failing at a thing. And then the school's like, okay, fine, you can rewrite the whatever. So these sham universities where these kids learn fake skills, but you get a student visa, right? Yeah. So they're students coming in. Right?
And they anyways can vote into the Liberal
Party.
Parties.
And then they can vote into the Liberal Party election, they can register and all this. Like, the whole who killed Niger? Yeah, students, gangsters.
Right? On student visas.
On student visas. What were they studying? Like, Bloods versus Crips, like real life applications of the inter-gang war. So it's a complete fraud scheme. Okay. So these universities are taking people in, they're taking a huge cut. Then these students come for a better life. You're told, oh, you're going to make money in Canada. Well, it's not so easy, right? Canada has its own problems. And then and it's not just, I've seen this with Chinese and Iranian, anywhere there's sort of like a, nonsense, hostile foreign ideology going on, where you have people from their own community who then take advantage of the people here on these student visas because they do sort of these handshake deals, whatever, and think of the economics, all right? Even if you're struggling, right? You own a house and you're going to rent your basement out. I have no problem with that. Make some extra money. A lot of people turn part of the thing to help pay the rent. It's a thing. Are you going to rent to a family of 4 that can pay you, let's say, $2,500 a month?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you going to rent to 10 to 15 foreign exchange students who are going to pay you $1,500 a month in cash?
Yeah.
Each.
Yeah. So yeah, $15,000 per month coming to you. Yeah, yeah.
Right? I've seen.
So there are multiple things. One is that you said that there's this whole immigration issue that that's gone really worse under Justin Trudeau. The second thing you said was the traditional oil and gas economy that Canada had has really been turned upside down because of
to save the planet.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And the third thing you're saying is that specifically when it comes to Khalistanis and all, they've really sort of hijacked the political scene, particularly for liberals. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, liberals. So this is where you get this is the light side of it, right? So you have this, and then then there's a darker element too. Okay, so where the Khalistanis come in, right? There's the thing of if you want to overstay your visa, you hold a Khalistani flag, you rip up an Indian flag with a sword outside the embassy, death, Khalistan, Zindabad, Modi, blah, blah, blah. You do that thing, and then you pay some more money to that whack job lunatic in the Punjab region, and then he gives you refugee status in Canada, which easy fix. You can't declare refugee status from an allied country like India or America. But that's if we had a serious country, which we don't. Unless I'm being prime minister, then it'll be a full-on joke because then I'll just make everything free and I'll fully crash the thing as a liberal prime minister. And give me 2 weeks, I'll destroy everything. I'll finish it off. So you have this thing where it's okay, now you have 15 kids in a basement or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You're sleeping 3 people on a couch. You're a young man. What do you want? A young woman. You're a young woman. Where are you not going? You're not going to get a boy. You're not going to get a girlfriend if you live with 15 dudes to back at your place.
Yes.
You need your own. You need space, right?
Yeah.
Everyone kind of does. Okay, how do you get to that? Well, now you get into this is where the Astro Khalistanis come in, right? So you kind of been in this that. Hey, you want to get into the trucking industry, right? Drugs, right? You're currying drugs. You're getting into the criminal behavior, right? And Canada also has soft on crime approaches, which has really exacerbated this whole thing. Where if I catch you stealing a car, right? That's you'll be in jail for the night, and then off you go out next night to go back to doing crime. So the deterrence factor is a joke. It's 90% of the crime.
Who ended that? Who ended this whole deterrence when it comes to crime?
Trudeau. It's like the woke. It's wokeism, and Canada's like wokeism on steroids. So the way Canada works politically among the Canadian left is Canadian upper middle class liberals, urbanites. I know these people quite well. Their prime directive is they love arbitrary world rankings, putting them above Americans. So if the World Health Index of Freedom, Coordination, blah, 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 rates Canada as the number 4 livable place to be, what does that even mean? No one knows.
Made up rankings.
Made up rankings. Canadians, upper middle class, urbanite Canadians, this is like the Bible to them. You merge the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, all the holy texts in the world is an arbitrary nonsense ranking from some global institution that means nothing with an acronym. That's what it is to these people. Oh my God, we're number 3 happiest place to live. Number 2, Americans are number 9. Ha ha ha. So we love bragging to our American cousins about how much more progressive we are than them. So if
But progressive means that you're soft on crime. Progressive means that you're soft on vetting who comes in. Progressive means that you're soft
all
on
these things.
on your agenda.
And then because then our lunatic American and so the Americans both ignore. So it's what I call the inferiority superiority complex. We have this inferiority superiority complex to the Americans. So the Americans ignore us, and they don't really understand anything about us. But upper middle class Americans who vote Democrat, they'll come in and be like, "Oh my God, Trump!" or "It's so crazy." He lowered taxes and then deported some sort of terrorist. Oh no. Then you get to come and be like, oh, that doesn't happen here. We have free healthcare. And the Americans don't look around and they go, wow, and I wish we were more like Canada. Maybe we should consider moving to Canada. And this is like nirvana in their ears. Never happens. The Americans never move here. But they just want to hear some American Democrat go, oh my God, you're so lucky. Maybe we should move to Canada because Donald Trump's going to lower my taxes. This is like what drives them. So this is how we make policy when liberals rule. Like
cuckoo land, basically.
Yeah, cuckoo land, right? It's a complete opposite. It's like when Bernie Sanders was doing $15 fairness 10 years ago. The liberals in Ontario, like Catherine Wynn's government, just immediately, like when Americans like, okay, no, we can't just, minimum wage is more complicated than that, and there's a debate in America. We now have $15 an hour minimum. We just spent $15 an hour. Like Bernie Sanders said in America, that's how we designed monetary policy, just so we could go to the Americans.
Yeah.
And then they go, oh wow, and then ignore us.
And that's it. That's national policy.
That's national policy. That's our election laws because, Bernie Sanders and the left is Citizens United. Oh, the corporations give so much money, you can't have the corporations with the... So we shut down, but that's how the system's so infiltrated by the jihadis, the CCP, the Khalistanis,
Everybody has a free pass.
Everyone's a free pass. Well, it's not that.
The only person not getting a free pass is Justin Trudeau to Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, that's
the only place where there's no free pass, is there?
So by designing policy in obstinance to American conservatives to appease American Democrats, it's not coherent. And you can't say you can't just do this. Canada's a different country. We have socialized medicine. They don't. This is apples and oranges at best. It's like apples and hamburgers. Come on.
But prices must be pinching them, right? I mean, no amount of made-up rankings can make up for the fact that food is now more expensive, houses are more expensive, right? I mean, that's
so
what
now
people
the upper middle class is usually the upper middle class can say things like, oh, this and live. They have especially in a first world country, upper middle class people have the privilege of living totally disconnected from the consequences of their beliefs.
Yeah.
It's one of the great things about life. Well, not so much anymore. Turns out, now they're feeling the pinch. Now people are looking at housing prices. Food costs are going up. Inflation is out of control. As I say, the CBC will fact check this and be like, no, inflation's under control. Look at this. The inflation metric, the CPI, does not measure inflation. It's designed to mismeasure inflation.
How's that even possible?
Well, because in the States, when inflation gets to a certain amount, because it's dangerous, there's certain controls that the government has to then put in to counter inflation. So to get around that, we measure inflation with a stupid number. Every government does it because they don't want to do it. Listen, what do governments hate most? Taking accountability for the mistakes. But if you can create a metric that measures inflation, that will essentially allow you to do nothing about inflation, and if you have a friendly media, you can ignore it. So the CPI, all right, it doesn't account for substitution. The easiest way, okay, you go to grocery shopping and your budget is $100 a week for food, and you get all your protein from AAA, grade A meat, right? We're in India, so we'll say lamb, not beef. That's my usual thing.
Yes.
Lamb is now hypothetically lamb. Right? That's the top lower thing. You're spending $100 a week on lamb. Well, inflation hits next month. Lamb is now $120 to get the protein you need to survive. Yeah. Lamb is now up 20%, so it's $120.
Yes.
You can't afford $120. You can afford $105. So you spend $105 on chicken. You've now switched to chicken. Well, the prices increased 20%. But inflation, the CPI, because you're now paying $105 at 100, is 5%. We say inflation.
That's nonsense. That's not the way to calculate inflation.
Right, and then as the things go up and more, you make more substitutions. Then you might switch. Okay, chicken, I can't afford chicken. Now I'm going to
You're going to go more of a
substitution. And then prices get so out of control that people start to make sacrifices. So single mom can't. It goes I ate 3 meals a day. Now I'm going to 2 meals a day. So now I'm instead of spending the $100 to get $100 worth of protein, I'm going to spend $90 to get $85 worth of protein.
Yeah.
Right. And now because mom's skipping meals, inflation's gone down. Yeah. Prices are still going up. The things people.
Where are all the economists in Canada? Where is IMF? Where are all these economists? What are they?
They're all part of the scheme. Right. The whole thing's a scheme. Right. It's a self-enabling technocratic nonsense. This is, people I think have crazy things about the deep state.
But who's being able to see through it, or is nobody being able to see through it? I mean, how much some of these policies are pinching?
People see through it. People know it's going up, so they're not people know the gaslighting. When when the CBC says, but inflation is down, people go to the grocery store and go, but prices are up.
Yeah.
How is this going? I make this rant like every couple of months. I rant about the CPI. It doesn't catch as much as like the sexier stuff. If I go like Calisthenics and I don't know, it just gets too technical, so it doesn't hit that algorithm. And there's a lot of people who like understand how it is. But again, like if you think of the ecosystem of like what you call like the deep province, because we're Canadian. People think it's you know islands with nefarious sex criminals, and like okay, that happened, but like the real what you call like bureaucracy is like you have this system of enabling where like the expert economy, all right, you need to get these degrees, like so foreign policy or economic experts, you get through the system, you go to U of T, you get the good school, you learn the thing, all right. In order to maintain this, like you then get expert status on the media. Okay. Right? So then in order to be on the media, you have to be the expert, you have to play the media's game. In order for the media to survive in Canada, it's subsidized by the government. So like,
it's going round and round.
And round. Right? And you don't want, like, again, this is why they don't want people like me coming in from new media, because we go, F it, like, I'll talk about the CPI, this is stupid, you know, drug trafficking, sex criminals, crime, like Hezbollah's running the auto theft industry. One of the thriving industries in Canada now is stealing cars. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Anyway, you don't get any punishment for that.
It's an international thing, right? No one wants to bring in the CBC. Like, people are like, oh my God, car theft is going crazy. And like, once everyone started getting their cars stolen. Funny thing on this, like the Justice Minister, turns out he was denying the crime because Pierre Poilievre, the Conservative, started doing stop the crime, crime's out of control, auto theft, talking because people are just getting their cars stolen. It's now the Toronto police told people to leave their car keys outside their house so thieves steal their cars and don't come into their house. This is the Toronto police, right? So it's so crazy, and the Liberals started denying this, and Arif Farani starts going, oh no, there is no auto theft, Pierre Poilievre is a scaremonger, far-right, conservative, blah, 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 blah. Then the story broke. He actually had his own car stolen 3 times.
Wow.
So then he starts denying that, and the media's making a lot out of nothing, and blah, 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 blah. And while he's doing this thing in the middle, his car was stolen a 4th time.
Wow.
So it's $1 billion multinational industry.
And there's no recourse. Nobody's trying to solve this problem. Nobody's trying to address it.
Now there's a little bit trying to solve it because
that's because the minister's car has been stolen 4 times.
Well, once things affect the upper middle class, then people start to know about, like, if it affects
that's
the lower...
the threshold, isn't it?
That's the threshold in Canada, right? So when the upper middle class feels it, when, you know, when you're at a dinner party and someone goes, yeah, I got my car stolen, and goes, yeah, I got my car stolen, it's a real... So once it affects people...
It's when it's dinner party chatter.
When it's dinner party chatter, exactly. There's a lot of parties in Canada, one of them is the dinner party. And that's your, like, you know, category. So you have... This ecosystem of experts and technocrats, and all the media is subsidized by the government, and a lot of these people are just boring losers who have nothing interesting to say and haven't had anything interesting to say in a while. And Canada, I love my country. I love it dearly. It is a great country, but one of the things I despise about the country is there is a culture of corporate mediocrity that is developed in Canada over the last couple decades, where... It's
the reason why it's not really now anywhere, whether it's in innovation or technology or economy or cutting-edge research.
Yeah, exactly. We're doing lots of research, but none of it's cutting edge. It's all it's all BS nonsense because we don't value excellence. And people have to, like, again, we need to go to the States to make it. Like, I have friends, you know, I have a friend who's a very successful comedian running around. He's hilarious. Shout out to Ben Bankus. Love him. But, like, he had to go to the States to, like, okay, if you're going to have a serious, like, he could make money in Canada. One of the few people who did, like, amazing work ethic, had to be hilarious, fought the entire system. But eventually, like, if you're going to build, like, a life for yourself, got to go to the States and make it there to be in these industries. And
is that the reason why Trump says it's time to now have Canada as part of the U.S.? I mean, what's up with that?
Okay,
it's going on and on several times.
Like, the things Trump is complaining about for the tariffs is actually real. So one, it's, like, again, the border. The amount of terrorists that can just easily sneak into Canada and then walk into the States.
Talk to us. Explain, how porous is the Canada-U.S. border? How easily can people go? And where are those points?
You could go on Instagram, and the human traffickers have Instagram accounts where they advertise it. We've covered this, Kushal, Mara, and I have covered on this podcast. Like, we've pulled out the Instagram accounts, and it's like this many, and they'll advertise it, like, back in India or in Punjabi or in whatever, and there's different ones. It's just,
So there are specific points and people know about it. They've been well advertised where you can actually walk and get across from Canada to the American border.
There's dozens of different schemes. It's a giant border,
Yeah,
right?
it is,
It's a gigantic border,
Yeah.
and it's like it's not India Pakistan where
No.
people are waiting for like a fight.
It's not fenced. It's none
not
of that.
fenced.
Yeah.
I mean the regular ports, like you can't just like if you go over the Peace Bridge or whatever, but like you can get in. So Canada being a safe haven for every crazy person in the world, students.
Students.
Is a problem, right? It's a problem for us, right? If you see the streets of the West, the Hamasniks, and I was just today, whatever this is, like another in my city of Toronto, a kosher business was like broken into and vandalized with F Jews and free
Written on
gas
it,
and
yeah.
that whole thing. So that's just normalized the where the mayor is a communist, the deputy mayor is a Hezbollah sympathizer. And that's just where the country is. So, like, the actual...
So Hezbollah sympathizers have been mainstreamed in Canadian
totally
politics.
mainstream. Yeah. I mean, we pretend it's... I mean, so they'll shoot up a Jewish school or firebomb a synagogue, and then 24 hours later, the prime minister will come and say, hate has no place here. It's a cataclysmic failure. Every level of government. Doug Ford, who I call Fat Trudeau, Premier of Ontario, he doesn't care. Whoever pays him the most money, that's who gets... So it's a total corrupt racket in Ontario. He spends more than the Kathleen Wynne Liberals. It's a total joke. So it's the highest bidder. Again, Olivia Chow's a lunatic. Literally, when I promise 100% tax rate and everything will be free, I say it as a joke. She's trying to do it. Like there was a rain tax that she tried to put. Like these are the lunatics.
A rain tax.
Yes, rain tax. Trying to explain every stupid thing Canada does. We'd be here
This
for...
podcast would run into hours or days.
We would run for 2 months. We would be here until at least March.
So what's going to fix it then? What's going to fix this?
There are fixes. I mean, it's going to take some real courage by the new Conservative leadership, and people are rightfully skeptical on how strident... I mean, Pierre Poilievre kind of came in as like, we're going to be, economic libertarians and fix the economy, which needs fixing. And one of the big things is, okay, we need to finally get the pipelines between Canada and U.S. built. For the last 10, 15 years, we haven't had two conservative governments. Stephen Harper wanted to have an economy. Barack Obama didn't want to have an economy.
Yeah.
Then,
so are you saying if Polievre wins, then with
If
Trump
Polievre-
here, those pipelines could actually happen?
They're going to happen because both of them want to make money. Trump wants the Americans to have, all right, what's Trump famous for? Cheap gas, mean tweets.
Yeah.
Right? Cheap gas, good economy. Right? Poilievre wants Canada to have an economy. Trump wants America to have an economy. This can work out. All right? Obama didn't want a resource economy. Harper did. Trump wanted a resource economy.
Trudeau had come in by then.
Trudeau didn't. So we haven't been able to really get this going. Right? And then, but there's the social things. It's like, will we have mass deportations? Like, Canada is a country that prides itself on accepting immigrants. We will say we're all a country of immigrants.
Students, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
80% of new immigrants think there's too many immigrants here. Like, I've interviewed people who come in like these foreign students, and like they come in and they're like, shut the door behind me, please. Like, this is crazy.
So what do the people there feel about it? I mean, what do average Canadians feel about it?
The average Canadian wants the lunatics deported. The average Canadian is now deportable. Like, and I am of course afraid of, like, yes, going too far on the hard right, where you see that kind of emerging, where it's just because if no one takes control and handles the situation, the people are going to be, listen to the ones who are at least talking about it. Then it's going to be like people online, going, oh, the stinky cheats, just deport them, and like, saying these, crazy nonsense things.
But is Polievre talking about mass deportation? Because he's talking about axe the tax, he's talking about I'm going to fix the housing sector and all. But how much is he talking about the deportation?
Not at all,
Yeah.
right? So this is where it's like, okay, push comes to shove. Like if Pierre doesn't establish a Canadian cultural identity, it doesn't have some sort of element of like socially Canadian conservative element to it. It does. I mean, we're just talking about like deport the criminals, okay? If there's someone here illegally and they burn down someone's house, just deport them. And if he can't figure that one out, if he's just going to be economic conservatism, if Pierre Poilievre ends up being doing what the Tories did in the UK,
Yeah.
Canada's done, and best case scenario is we get annexed by America, and in 10 years they might not even want to annex us. That's how bad it's going to get. If it's all on Poilievre, if he doesn't have the stomach to do what needs to be done and what Canadians overwhelmingly want him to do. So if he runs the gauntlet and kind of stands up and says, like, he doesn't have to do the Trumpy thing of being Trump now, but if he sort of establishes some deterrence, shuts down some of these terrorist sympathizing institutions, says, no, Canadians have an actual national identity. Yes, that's open to everyone. Like, we're pretty good at integrating people. Like, when I grew up, you see a brown person, like, I expect them to speak, like, I just, like, it's not like, you just, like, expect them in Toronto to, like, be able to speak English with everyone, and like, you just, like, I've seen what you would call multiculturalism or ethnic plurality. I've seen it work, okay? I was there in the 90s and early 2000s in Toronto.
Are you saying now that Canada doesn't really have a national identity so far, because that's how much it's been ruptured, so to say, because of Trudeau's politics?
It's been active. I mean, that Trudeau infamously said, we're the first post-national state.
Yeah.
He hates our national identity. He got up in front of the world, accused the country of genocide, copped to crimes against humanity, and we all just kind of like laughed it off. Now, listen, I'm as strong a Trudeau critic as it gets. I would never accuse him of genocide. I think it's ridiculous. However, he's accused himself of genocide. What are we doing? And you have this language, like, and you see it now, like, it's not, like, I can see it on, like, the Jewish community, because they go, oh, settler, Zionist, settler, colonialist lies, all that nonsense. And people go, oh, this. It's like, well, that's coming here, too. Like, the international left has sort of co-opted the anti-Zionism to be generally anti-nationalist in a way. And, you know, I've been at the Remembrance Day ceremonies in Canada, November 11th. We honor the troops. And, like, the mayor, or, like, the diversity minister of Toronto or something, gets up and says, we are settlers on whatever land. And I heard her call herself a second-generation settler. It's like, and she's a black woman. If I had called a black woman, you know, not a real Canadian, you're just settler on this land, racist, go back, oh my God, yeah. I'm in jail. Yeah. But she's calling herself a second-generation settler, like a not real Canadian.
Trudeau is calling himself, somebody who's done genocide. So what's really happening?
So what's really happening is, like, it's this delusion that we have where, like, we want to be the best. It's this, we have given up national identity to be part of, like, the sort of new world order, as you would call it, like this global technocratic utopia where transnational, the UN, the EU, Canada, like liberal establishment, you know, what people would call like the neoliberal elite.
Run by the Khalistanis.
Run by the Khalistanis.
Yes.
Like, I hate the people who always misuse the neoliberal, the neoconservative stuff. But it's generally, you know, what people think it is. So you have this sort of identity Trudeau wants to be, where, like, I've said it before, like, Trudeau's political hero is Greta Thunberg, okay? He wants to be Greta Thunberg. He wants to go, and he's always wanted this. He's always wanted to go, when he's not Prime Minister anymore, go to Europe, land in Europe, and have him, he's, in 2015, oh, he's a progressive champion, look at him. Yeah. And he could say all the nice things, but then he put all those nice things as policy, and then, you know, nice words is all good, but, you know, sunny ways isn't a real policy. The budget will balance itself. Oh, it didn't. Turns out someone needed to balance the budget, Justin. Yeah. And all this different stuff. So he's always wanted to be that type of guy. And, you know, again, these arbitrary rankings, whatever, the more you play these games, the more the, you know, international order of blah, 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 whatever you could call it, you know, is it Soros funded or not? Like, one of these things that's funded by some billionaire playing their own games, to say, oh, look, Canada's increased on the happiness scale, standard of living, or like life quality index.
Again, made up rankings.
Again, made up rankings. We're doing great.
But do you think with Polievre coming, and I'm going to now ask about also India. Do you think with Pierre Polievre coming in, the relationship with India will see a change? I mean, or do you think he'll have to do a lot of work given the damage that's been done by Trudeau?
It can't get any worse.
Yeah.
So there's that. I do think it will get better. Will it be perfect? No. But again, like, listen, the Conservatives, Canadian Conservatives, are natural cowards. Okay, they're incredibly cowardly people. And
why do you say that?
Because we're a liberal country, and they're always scared of, like, being called racist or doing this. And they're not dynamic and creative thinkers, because they're very institutional, and right, they've built their own little. The problem with the Canadian Conservatives is they don't feel like there's a big enough pie. So in America, there's enough money in the conservative movement to go around. You can get conservatives from anywhere. Like, you can have a conservative movement in Kentucky, and a conservative movement in America isn't really a threat to a different conservative movement. Like, it's big enough to share. The Canadian Conservatives are not like that. They very much hate grassroots. You need grassroots, but they're
Yeah.
very afraid of the grassroots if they don't control it. So you make a successful grassroots conservative movement in Canada, the Conservative Party will try and take it over or destroy it. Because they're just afraid. Like the Conservative, like the Freedom Convoy, raising
Yeah.
$20 million twice. Do you know the crazy $20 million in like a month? That's like years worth of all political parties' federal fundraising. And built an email list of hundreds of thousands of people. Like this is like, this would, if they were smart, they would have seen good grassroots conservative organizing. It's good for us in the long run. But it's a danger to the party establishment. Those people have control over the systems, the unelected bureaucrats, the technocrats, the organizers, all in the system, right? They don't want that. They need tight control of all of this. So they're natural cowards because they play the liberals' game. They know if they don't understand the new, and they're very slow to adapt. So I was been saying for years, I'd have people talking to the Conservative Party, and I would say this. It's changed a bit now. Like, I would say, like, it is impossible to convince the Conservative Party that it's not the year 2006. I tried so hard for years to try and convince conservative leaders that it's like, it's 2018, now it's 2019, it's 2020.
25, yeah.
So
you've been doing this for a while now.
I've been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
And the Conservatives were dead set. This is the year 2006. We know how to do politics. Andrew Scheer, don't worry, I got this. Like, then his campaign was like he hit the first one to run against Trudeau after Harper. His campaign was basically like, I love my mom, drink milk. And it's like, are we really appealing to is that who we're struggling with? The demographic is the leader's mother? Is she on the fence? Is this the great swing vote, like your mom? That we need to have strict conversation. Like we're spending millions of dollars in commercials to get Andrew Scheer's mom to vote for Andrew Scheer. Brilliant strategy.
Of course.
Then there was Aaron O'Toole, who came in with in the primaries, I'm the true blue, real conservative. Like,
Yes.
nothing conservative. And then they kind of made sure that no one interesting ran against him. And then he became true blue conservative. I'm the most conservative leader of the Conservative Party. I'm now liberal. And his whole thing was...
So it's also gone yo-yo like that, right?
So
the Conservative Party movement, up and down,
He ran his Diet Trudeau.
Yeah.
And listen, if people want Coke, they're going to drink Coke, right? They don't want Diet Coke.
Yes.
Right? You should have run the Conservative. So Polievre is a way more dynamic a thinker than any other Conservative before him, which is what gives me hope. What would take the average Canadian or Indian about 3 to 30 seconds to think about and do, or 3 seconds, would take the Conservative Party of Canada 3 months to figure out. Or polling, whatever.
Okay.
Polievre, something that would take you 3 seconds to decide, Polievre can do this in about 3 weeks. Right? He can think a normal human thought that takes about 3 seconds. He can do it in about 3 weeks, which is dynamic by Conservative Party of Canada standards.
That tells you everything about the state.
So you have the
Yes.
Conservatives, which play the liberal game, which use the polling groups and the focus groups, which are questions designed by the Liberal Party to do you think that all the questions, like every they're like data nerds. They're data nerds and they're always doing their homework. We're more professional than the liberals. We're going to do our homework. Look at me. Look how many computers we have here. Look at this data room. We're spending so much time. We're great. And I try and tell them, the data is corrupted, you ding-dongs. It's corrupted. Like, the data you're getting, it doesn't matter how much you do if the data is corrupted. Like, think through this. Like, why are the Conservatives using a firm, connected to Katie Telford?
Yes.
Like, come on, guys.
Okay.
But they could be swayed to like money. Given enough time, give them time and power, with the Khalistanis not controlling a balance of power in the government, there are some in the Conservative Party, but in a supermajority, they won't have the ability to break the government. The Conservatives are, again, natural cowards, so they don't want to be called racist, and they like, if someone can look like a minority and do that, they'll bring them to the front bench so they can show the world, look, we're not racist, we have, Osama bin Laden is right there, right?
Okay.
And you go,
So there's only limited hope for Canada right now, but I'm going to ask you about your thoughts on Prime Minister Modi. What do you think about India's Prime Minister?
So listen, I'm not Indian, but this is from I'll say this as a Jew. I get from the outside the criticism of Modi, it's very similar to the deranged criticism of Benjamin Netanyahu, where I see the scaremongering on Modi globally is just a means to demean India or Hindus or people Hindu or India adjacent. So the criticism of Modi I've always recognized as incredibly deranged. I've seen the attacks on India. I remember in 2019 the Article 370 stuff. like, India's doing a genocide. I'm like, where did this genocide come from? Oh, they're not allowing Hezbollah Tahrir to do a genocide. That's okay. I've seen this before, right? I've seen this game. It's the same playbook that they've been using against Israel since the 70s. They've now flipped that to India. So I do like the fact that Modi is standing up to this. I think he's right. Like the Ram Mandir. Yes, you have to do that. That's deeply important for the existence of Indian civilization going forward, and it's a great thing for civilization. Article 370, again, standing up to bad guys means there's going to be less. Capitulating to terrorists means more terrorism. Standing up to terrorism means less terrorism. So from that, it's good. You look at India now. I mean, I've just been here. Like the roads are digitized, like toll booths are digitized. Like the roads are getting built. He's built more infrastructure than Congress had in its entire existence. And from talking to people in the streets here and going around and doing foreign interference, he's pretty well thought of here. And again, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in Indian society.
Of course not. I'm just asking you from your impression about it.
But my impression is, it's good that you have some center-right economic value. If you can just improve the standard of living of the people, get energy, get the economy, build things up, actually have some infrastructure, get some these going on. Rising tide raises all boats. So from the outsider's perspective, I think he's done pretty good at modernizing India,
And in fact, a record number of people have been lifted out of poverty in the last 10 years. Of course, it takes time, given the legacy issues. But to that effect, a lot has been done.
It's a country with 1.5 billion people, and you see poverty next to wealth.
But the good thing, he doesn't take 3 weeks for a normal 3
yes,
second decision.
He would be kicked out of the Conservative Party of Canada immediately.
Yeah,
immediately deported from our party.
I'm now going to ask you. This is the last segment, which is the rapid fire segment.
Okay.
And given that you've been going around saying that you want to be the next prime minister. Of course, now I'm not going to say imagine you're a politician. I'm going to say think like a politician. So the first question I want to ask you is that what advice would you give your political rival? Keep your friends close, or butt your enemies closer, or don't bite the hand that feeds you?
Don't bite the hand that feeds you.
What's your go-to political strategy? Charm the masses or keep them guessing?
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
If your political career was a movie, would it be a thriller, comedy, or drama, and why?
Combination of all three. I was a comedian.
I thought you were going to say Trudeau.
I was a comedian before I was a political analyst.
Yeah.
So no, it would. You'd laugh, you'd cry, you'd do all this. It's the triumph of tragedy of Canada. I would aim for a mixture of all three.
Which politician would you invite to your dream dinner party? And what's that one burning question you would ask them? It could be living or dead. It could be anybody.
Living or dead? Oh, dream politician. That's a good question. I mean, I love Stephen Harper as a Canadian. I think he was, especially in a lifetime. But the Canadian history nerd in me would pick Robert Borden.
Okay.
Canadian Prime Minister during the First World War. So, the real founding as Canada as a country, like the transition of the British Empire into the Commonwealth, in dealing with the French. 1917, Canadian First World War. It's like a personal fascination of mine. Very cool. Like this, the amount of girlfriends you get in high school talking about World War I history. I mean. Love it. But yeah, I would ask Robert Borden about wartime Canada and all the changes that happened there.
Okay. You're in charge for a day. Let's say you actually become the Prime Minister. What's the first law you would pass, and what's the first policy you would ditch?
Muslim Brotherhood would be a terrorist organization. Hezbollah Tahrir would be a terrorist organization. Jamaat-e-Islami would be a terrorist organization. I would put Khalistanis back with it. I would just all the actual quasi-terrorist organizations that are they just this. Muslim Brothers is a terrorist organization, and all the sort of things. Shut down the money laundering through them, and all that, and try and culturally restabilize Canada, because more than we need an economy, we need a country. And
and I would say you would need a national identity as well.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes, I would reinstate that. We have the national anthem in school, but I would be I would be a Canadian nationalist, and I wouldn't be scared off from the term nationalist, because I think Canada is a good country built on good principles with good people, and forming a national identity around that is a good thing.
All right, we end this here. Daniel Bordman, thank you so much for being a part of Spot On. And it was a fascinating conversation, and hope to carry on this after the elections. Let's see who actually makes it.
Thank you. And when I'm Prime Minister of Canada, I will be happy to return here, and I will be wearing a big fancy hat.
And you won't be interfering.
I won't
There
be
won't be
interfering.
foreign interference.
It will be domestic. It won't be foreign. No, because I get to declare what's foreign interference or not. But I will be wearing a big fancy hat.
All right, we end it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.